The boy left home early in the morning. No one knew where he had gone. Even his mother called his name many times, but there was never any answer. He walked along the old street, filled with the smell of dust and dampness. His eyes stared straight ahead, unfocused on anything around him. Yet in his heart, worry churned like a storm. Every step seemed to pull him deeper into a mystery he could not escape. The neighbors saw him passing by, but no one dared to ask. There was something in his gaze, something that told them the truth he had seen was beyond words. In the afternoon, sunlight filtered through the tall trees, casting intricate shadows on the ground. The boy stopped walking. His hand touched the scratches on an old wall, as if there were marks left just for him to find. The wind whispered through an abandoned window, and there was a sound faint, almost like a voice. He looked around, but no one was there. Only emptiness and a chilling silence. By evening, the boy entered a narrow alley, one he had never known before. Everything around him was still. Even the sound of his own heartbeat was loud, thudding and trembling as if warning him that he should not be here, yet he could not turn back. Then he saw an old wooden door, tightly shut, but light leaked from the edges, as if calling him forward. The boy reached out to touch it. The warmth from the light made him feel both safe and terrified. He glanced back at the path home, but everything had changed. The narrow alley he had walked through hours ago was now a labyrinth with no exit. The boy stepped through the door, and the moment his foot touched the ground inside, thick darkness enveloped him. Yet within that darkness, something waited, something that made his heart quiver with both anticipation and fear. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with a scent he could not recognize. It was a mixture of damp earth, something metallic, and a faint sweetness that made his stomach twist. The boy's eyes struggled to adjust to the darkness. Shapes shifted around him, shadows stretching like living things. He could hear the faintest echo of dripping water somewhere far away. Each drop sounded like a distant heartbeat, mirroring his own, faster and faster. He stepped cautiously, feeling the uneven ground beneath his feet, wondering if the next step would be the one he could not take back. A faint glow appeared ahead. It was not from the door he had just passed through. It was smaller, more fragile, yet it pulsed with a quiet insistence. Drawn toward it, he noticed walls lined with carvings. They were not random. They were symbols, twisting and spiraling like they were alive, etched deep into the stone as if waiting for someone to understand them. The glow seemed to breathe in response to his movements. He reached out, hesitant, and his fingers hovered above a carving that resembled a tree, roots tangled in strange patterns. The instant his skin brushed the surface, a shiver ran up his spine. A whisper filled the space around him, soft but unmistakable, like a language he almost knew but could not fully comprehend. His heartbeat thudded in his ears. Something stirred in the shadows. Not far, but not near either. A presence he could not name, yet it was aware of him, watching him, waiting for him to act. He wanted to retreat, to run back through the door. But something stronger than fear held him in place. Curiosity, or perhaps necessity, pulled him forward. Every step was measured, deliberate, yet each movement felt as if it echoed in a cavernous emptiness beyond time. Suddenly, the glow flickered and split into 2 points, rising like floating embers. They circled around him, weaving closer, and for a moment, the boy could swear he saw shapes forming within them, faces, hands, eyes that blinked but did not belong to any living creature he had ever known. The whispers grew louder, yet still, no words were spoken. It was as if the darkness itself was trying to speak to him, to reveal something he had always been meant to see. He reached toward one of the floating lights, and the instant his fingers neared it, the glow shot upward and vanished into the ceiling above. A hollow silence replaced it. The boy blinked, searching for any sign, any hint of where it had gone. And then he heard it, a single, soft footstep behind him. He spun around, but the corridor was empty. The air quivered as if it had a pulse of its own. Another step echoed, this time closer, but still no one appeared. A cold draft brushed against his neck, raising goosebumps along his spine. He could feel the presence again, patient and deliberate, as though it had been waiting for him to follow. But the next moment, it vanished into the shadows just as suddenly as it had arrived. The boy's chest rose and fell rapidly. He wanted to call out, to speak, to break the silence. But the words stuck in his throat. Every instinct pulled him to move forward, yet the path ahead was uncertain, and the light that had drawn him in now felt distant, almost teasing. Then, at the far end of the corridor, he saw a door appear where none had been before. It was simple, unassuming, wooden, and yet something about it made the air thick, heavy, almost impossible to breathe. He took a step toward it, then stopped. A faint creaking sound emanated from the hinges. But the door did not open. He pressed his hand against it, and the wood was colder than ice, as if it existed in a different reality, touching him without truly being there. The boy leaned closer, straining to see what lay beyond. He could feel a pull, a magnetism that demanded he open it, but the moment he reached for the handle, a rush of wind blasted from beneath the door. It was not cold. It was not warm. It was as if the space beyond was alive, breathing, waiting. Then silence returned. He stepped back, uncertain. The corridor stretched endlessly, the shadows now denser, darker, and thicker than before. The floating lights never returned. The whispers had stopped. Yet he knew one thing with absolute clarity. The door was only the beginning. He could not turn back. He could not move forward. And somewhere, in the depths of that living darkness, something was waiting for him to make the next choice. But it never came. The boy stood before the door, frozen, feeling the weight of the silence pressing against him. Every shadow in the corridor seemed to lean closer, waiting, but this time not in malice, more like expectation. He drew a slow breath, letting the chill settle into his bones, as if the darkness itself were teaching him patience. He pressed his hand against the cold wood again. This time, instead of resisting, the door yielded slightly under his touch. A faint glow seeped from its edges, not harsh or blinding, but warm, inviting. For the first time, he did not feel fear. He felt clarity. The boy pushed the door open and stepped inside. The darkness behind him did not reach in, nor did it call him back. The room beyond was empty yet familiar, as if it existed simultaneously in memory and reality. Soft light pooled around him, revealing nothing remarkable, no treasures, no spirits, no answers. Only the echo of his own footsteps and the faint, lingering pulse of something greater than himself. He closed his eyes and let the silence wash over him. For the first time since leaving home, he felt the absence of uncertainty. He realized the journey itself had changed him. The mystery, the fear, the unknown, they had not been obstacles to overcome. They had been the teachers, showing him the limits of courage, the depth of patience, and the quiet power of presence. The boy opened his eyes. The corridor behind him was gone, replaced by a soft horizon of light that seemed to stretch infinitely. He understood, without words, that he had returned, not to a place, but to himself. The boy who never returned home was no longer the boy who left. He had gone through darkness, and in doing so, had discovered something beyond fear, beyond expectation, beyond longing. He stepped forward into the light, and in that moment, the world held its breath, waiting. But nothing extraordinary happened. No grand revelation. No magical transformation. Only the quiet certainty that he had survived, that he had learned, that he had grown. He walked onward, not toward an ending, but into the next chapter of his life. And though the story could have continued, though the shadows could have whispered, and the mysteries could have called again, the boy was finally free of the waiting, free of the fear, free of the silence. He had returned, not to the home he had left behind, but to the self he had always needed to find. The corridor, the door, the shadows, they were gone. And for the first time, there was only forward.